welcome to NOSIS, the podcast that celebrates no shame in struggle. Today I have in the studio Wrigz and Kayya. Thank you for joining me today, guys.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So we're going to chop it up today about parenthood. We're going to talk a little bit about our parenthood journeys and the dynamics, because I'm really interested in how life looks for different people based on circumstances, based on culture and environment, and how we are, I guess, changing the narrative when it comes to parenthood, because I know our generation has got a lot of work to do. I feel like our generation is the dumping ground for everything that's ever happened in the world. I'm sure every generation feels like that. But yeah, it's really about talking about our experiences and how we have adapted since we stepped into parenthood. So I'll just start by introducing my status as a parent. So I'm a single mother of one. I've got a little boy who's 6 years old. He's actually just gone back into mainstream education, which is, I'm a bit salty about it, I'm not going to lie, because as you know, Kayya, I was on an unschooling, homeschooling journey. But I think doing that as a single parent, financially, time-wise, you don't get funding for it. So I was finding it quite difficult to do on my own. But we'll go into that. Yeah, I think that's it, really. I'm a mother of one, single mother, and I'm not in a relationship. So I want to talk about how, you know, in terms of single motherhood dynamics and things like that. So, Kayya, do you want to share your motherhood position?
Yes, I'm also a solo parent. I have a 2-year-old daughter. And I have no partner. I don't have any day-to-day support, but thankfully her father's family are supportive. So her grandma has been there pretty much from the first day. And I'm just about kind of getting to a place where I'm putting more effort into taking her to spend time with, you know, more of her aunties and other relatives on that side.
Amazing. It helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that support network, not just for them, but for us
as well. It makes
a
huge difference. Like, she just started having sleepovers from like earlier this year, and it's been life-changing.
Yeah, for both of you.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I also plan to homeschool and world school and whatnot.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. Like, a lot of our community is going along that sort of journey, on that pathway. I think eventually it will create a space where it's like there's somewhere in between, there's a bit of a balance. Yes. So I think by us needing that environment and, like, I guess challenging what we knew as a norm, which is mainstream, we're forcing an outcome now. Like, that change is happening. What about you, Wrigz? Tell us about your position.
Mine's a bit more complicated. So I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I have my 2 boys to their mother, who I used to be with, that I'm no longer with, and I have a daughter, and I'm with her mother, so we're a family together. But I've had a lot of issues with my boys. I've not seen them for a year. I've not seen them for 6 of the last 7 years, just due to the, you know, the popular struggles what a lot of us are facing.
Dynamics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But with my daughter, it's kind of like I got to make a fresh start. I got to implement everything that I believed in. I got to see where I'm coming up short. Got to see where my strengths are, whatnot. So, like, I'm very grateful for that, but it's an ongoing struggle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to kind of unpack.
Yeah, because it's not easy to walk in that sort of path and stand for what you believe in as a parent, because the world isn't designed for the kind of mentality that a lot of us have. And I've seen you and the way that you are with your daughter and the things that you teach in her. I think it's a really beautiful thing to watch, which is why I wanted to speak to you. You went on stage for the first time because you've really dedicated yourself to fatherhood this time, haven't you?
Yeah. So last week was the first time I've been on stage since my daughter's been born.
How did that feel?
She got to see it. I could just see the delight.
That's my daddy.
It was, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it was a nice feeling. And like I said on the post, like, I actually, at times I've wondered if I'll ever perform again like that. So it was a big moment to me.
Why was it that you think you needed to take time out of performance to focus?
Because basically the whole music journey, my dedication towards the whole music journey, it it became a bit excessive and a bit toxic, and that was one of the main reasons that me and my original family started to go through the troubles, because there was a disproportionate amount of energy and emphasis placed on career and music, although it was all intended to be for my sons and for the family and whatnot, but I didn't understand how to balance it at that point. So when I had my daughter, I made sure that I wouldn't make that mistake again by putting all the focus on her and making her the primary focus, and the music can be secondary, and we'll see if we can work it out.
And do you think doing it that way around has affected what you've created in terms of your music and the way that you've expressed yourself through that music? Would you say you've written differently, or...?
Yeah, I'd say it's been more beneficial. It's been more internally beneficial, but not so much externally, because I've lost a lot of kind of leverage and ground and whatnot, what I invested in, but it's worth it. Though.
It's like you're building new grounds, though, new foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a stronger one.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I would totally respect that.
If I could go back, I'll do it again this way. Like, it was the right decision. I wish I understood this when I originally had my sons.
Yeah.
Would have played out different, but then I wouldn't have my daughter. So
So you've got that perspective, because obviously for me and Kayya, we're doing this for the first time, and they say the first time is where you learn all your lessons, and then I guess, I don't know about you, Kayya, are you thinking of having any more children? Do you see it?
I would love to have more children.
Would you?
Yeah. It's just a case of, finding a partner first, being a bit more, selective. Someone who will be, supportive and stick to their word. But yeah, right now I'm happy. I guess I can relate a little bit to what you were saying about, the balance between working and parenthood. Like, I was raised by a single parent as well, so didn't want to, raise my child or children on my own, because I just know how difficult it is. My mum put all her energy into working to provide, which obviously I appreciate everything that she sacrificed to do that and to provide, and she has provided really well. But at the same time as that, you miss out on a lot of emotional stuff. So I focus all my energy on being present for my daughter, and so I'm like the other end of the spectrum. Being there, everything else comes secondary, which I love that I'm able to do that. It's taken a lot of breaking, internalized stigmas about being a single mother on benefits and living like that. A lot of because I don't recall my mum ever being on benefits. I think she was at one point early in life, but just the stuff that, people say about people on benefits, I realised that I'd internalised a lot of stuff. And when I'm self-employed, so when I first went on maternity leave, I was thinking, I'm going to get back after the 40 weeks and working towards it. And that came around, it came so quickly. And I'm like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, thankfully I'm able to just choose. I still work, but at my own time and at my own pace. But it comes secondary to her. There's nothing that is worth taking me away from her, because work, career is not going anywhere. Education not going anywhere. But her childhood is.
Exactly.
And it's a real blessing to have that awareness of, mistakes or, choices that you would have made differently in the past, or if that was a previous generation, how learn from from your experience of that, essentially, and actually recognize how it affected you and make those changes. I'm really grateful to be in that position rather than to just be perpetuating, quite toxic cycles and raising a, really disconnected child who feels like they come secondary to everything else. Because, I chose to bring her into this world and made the choices that I made. So, You
facilitate it.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, because I think the norm is to have your child and then sort of hand them over to the system.
Yeah.
Sign them away. Sign them off. And for me, that's always felt really traumatic. And it's how have they lived like this? How have they done this for so long? And it's just become
so normalised.
The norm, so normalised. But I think I lived in Dubai for a short period of time, and I just saw, as much as they do have the same mainstream education system, there's playgrounds everywhere.
Okay.
You can see that children exist. At the bottom of office blocks, there's playgrounds. There's, it's just a lot more child-friendly.
Yeah.
Where here it's like, see no children, hear no children. We don't want to acknowledge their existence.
Like going out to restaurants, it's like they're tolerated just about. It's like, keep them quiet. Children should be seen and not heard. It's like, no, we all started off as children. Like someone was telling me not too long ago that a lot of us don't speak unless you do like vocal training, we don't know how to speak properly because from a young age we've been taught shh, like be quiet. And so our vocal cords our muscles all in that area are all restricted. So unless you're actually working to loosen up that area and release those blockages, then just could be silenced from such a young age.
That's like psychological, spiritual side of expression, isn't it? Because I feel like as much as language is there to help us communicate, it's almost been used as a limiting thing.
Yes.
And you can't possibly express everything in language.
Especially the English language, which is the language of commerce.
Everything's borrowed. We've got French borrowings, Norman borrowings. We've got influence from everywhere. I think the reality is we live in it's like a colonized, everything has been colonized by the society that we are now part of. And I think it's navigating, okay, how do we rebirth Black Britain? Because we don't have the same values that we've been sort of grown up with. Yeah. So it's all about redirecting. I think
it's when things seep into the household, I think we've got to protect. Like we protect our own personal energy, we've got to protect the energy of the household and understand that work is work and home is home. And to honour home more than we honour work. We can go to work and water ourselves down and put our costumes on and our faces on. But when we come home, we've got to be transparent, we've got to be honest, we've got to be... This is the serious aspect of life, home. Whereas a lot of the time we get lost in the world and we bring that home. And then our home culture ends up a reflection of the world.
Yeah.
And the world isn't for us, so we'll start to break or dilute ourselves or whatever. Or like he was just saying, we don't even speak properly. We're speaking like we're in an interview at home, like very restricted, and we're supposed to be able to let it all out at home. So I think it starts with home and building and protecting home.
That's your foundation, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's what you build upon.
And how would you do that then? Because I think I feel not everybody thinks like that and will prioritise home life. You almost have to have the same energy, the way you would run a business or the way you would show up for work. You have to be able to apply that energy to the household or to the relationship or to the parenthood. You're literally building a human and you're building a home. So it's like, okay, how do we do that? For me, it's something I've had to rebuild the environment that I see fit for my son. Now it's a different dynamic. I'm on my own. But I think for you coming from a 2-parent household, how do you guys sort of communicate where you want to go? And do you plan things or do you just go with the flow?
Well, that's the challenge at the moment. I think we're still at the point of trying to find that balance between us because we're coming from different places. So she may have one understanding, I've got another understanding. So we're trying to establish that between us before we can consistently apply something. Because at the moment we'll be applying things, but there's not always consistency due to us being on different pages. So we're still at that point of, although it's taking much longer than we want it to, we're trying to work out how do we balance our views or how do we learn when one person's got a compromise or... Do you get what I'm saying? And it's hard and it can feel like it's taking too long. So you kind of think, I'll just move past it. But that will never work. No. Like even if it takes 10 years, you've got to
get to the bottom of those.
Yeah, like first things first, foundations, fundamentals first. So it's like in all honesty, like we've not conquered or overcome that yet. It's still a big struggle, just working out how to balance it all and understanding the importance of our own learning journey. We've got to be learning as individuals in order to conquer this. If one of us is just stuck in our ways, that can be what's holding you back or what's making us incompatible or whatever. So I really don't, I just know we're working through it and that's it. We've not conquered it yet, so I couldn't give you like the solution, in all honesty.
But it's something, it's a progress.
Yes.
It's a process that you're going through.
Yeah, and we are making progress,
Right.
but it's a lot slower than we want it to be. Or sometimes it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. Like we're ebbing and flowing. Like,
It's because I feel like that's an element of like unlearning what we were passed down.
yeah,
Because we've been passed on things through our DNA that we don't even realise. And we have a belief system that's been built for us
yeah,
as a child while we're in the womb. And I
exactly.
think when you get to the point where you're a parent and you're actually in that environment with another parent, it's like, oh, we have to relearn what our belief system looks like,
Yes.
what our moral compass is. And that's what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, and I think it takes humility to kind of admit that that's required, because you kind of want to just stick to your guns, like what I know was right. And that's more the approach I'd say her mum takes. She's more trying to continue what she was taught, and I'm trying to unlearn and relearn.
Right.
And that's each to their own.
Of course.
But to me, it's important to analyze what you've come from, and is that something you want to recreate? Because if you do the same things, you get the same results.
Right.
So if you've come from a solid, balanced, healthy background that you're proud of, then it makes sense for you to be trying to continue that. If you've come from something that it's not about being proud, but something that wasn't very progressive for you, or something that caused a lot of trauma or gave you a lot of obstacles you had to overcome, then you might want to try to unlearn and do something different to prevent your child going through the same thing you went through.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell another person that. It's hard to tell another person that you need to change, or you may go through the same struggles that you've been through.
But the conversations are important, aren't they? Because
They're difficult,
there's a new
but they're
life at
important.
stake.
Yes.
And the communication is just so key to navigating life for them.
It's just such a huge opportunity for growth as adults as well, not just for the child, like learning how to find that balance point and learning how to compromise between those two opposing or like conflicting viewpoints. You know, it's such a huge lesson in communication and conflict resolution, learning how to overcome that.
Yes. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about sort of having a daughter, because you said you've got 2 sons already.
Yes.
How has having a daughter impacted how you feel or think about women? Are you more understanding? How does it work?
Yeah, definitely. See, I think that it's not anything that we're going through, I don't think it's a coincidence. So I think the mother of my sons, I think she's going through this kind of isolation with them because she had issues in regards to masculine energy. So she had problems, she had things she needs to patch up in regards to her relationship with masculine energy.
Right.
So I think the universe is wise beyond our understanding, and it will leave you in a scenario that
Makes
if
you
you
face.
pursue it, it will make you patch up the same for me. I think I grew up with having issues with feminine energy, and it was expressing itself in like excess interest in females, in many positive and negative ways. It was expressing itself, but to me, it was just an expression of a gaping hole I had in me in regards to feminine energy. So I think this opportunity with my daughter and her mum, I've been kind of isolated with just them for a while. It's forced me to learn the things I needed to learn about feminine energy, about women, about girls. So I've learned a lot. As far as what I've got to apply, I've not lived much and been out there, so it's just been the dynamic with me and her mum, and that's very confusing and complicated. So I've definitely learned a lot, but I'm still yet to see how applicable it is in the kind of adult realm.
Right.
But yeah, it's taught me a hell of a lot,
Yeah.
definitely, and it's
made you face some of the resistance or some of the...
yeah, and
Is that the right word?
I would say like the mild trauma.
Right.
Like
Okay.
from just due to the dynamics with me and my mum, it's helped. It's patched that up a lot, and I feel much more complete now.
In what ways? I'm curious.
Just understanding that the way, using one example, I read in a book that men grow by challenge. You challenge, since from little boys, we challenge each other like iron sharpens iron. It's like, I bet you can't do this, or I can do this faster than you. Challenge, and that's what assists in our growth. Whereas a woman doesn't grow by challenge, she grows from support and praise. So as a man, you can get in the habit of challenging someone in hopes of improving them, but that won't work with a woman.
Really?
That will only work with a man.
Right.
Or that won't work with feminine energy, should we say, because we're all made up of masculine and feminine energy. So I'd now always see the woman as the feminine aspect. So approach her as though she is the feminine principle, which means that's very specific. It's like, don't challenge. I've grown up challenging women a lot, like not in an aggressive, malicious way, but just always challenging something. And now I look back, I just think that's like very unintelligent. So I'd make sure I'm conscious that like I need to support and praise a woman if you want to get the best out of them. And that's just one example. Like there's a list of things that I've learned that I know are applicable, and I'd be conscious of them at all times.
I guess just that what I received from that is just recognising that, you know, women, for the most part, need softness and gentleness and nurturing.
Yes.
And I guess as like a single parent, and how would you relate that to, for example, women who are more quote unquote in their masculine, for example, single parents naturally have to be more in their masculine.
Yes.
And that comes with a lot of like resistance. And I know I've observed that, not necessarily from my experiences, but, you know, from talking to people, there's a lot of resistance from men towards women in their masculine, but they don't know how to navigate it. It breeds a lot of like insecurity or like confrontation, like them wanting to like challenge that and like almost like beat them down. So I guess I guess like what would you say or to like the men who, you know, that can relate to that?
Well, I think it starts with the man sincerely being in his masculine. That's what makes the woman feel like she can relax into her feminine by you standing strong in your masculine. So like you're saying, single mums are forced to be more masculine, understandably so. That's because of the lack of masculine energy in their life or in their situation. So I think you'd find if a healthy version of masculine energy came into their life, I think they would naturally relax into their feminine much more.
I would argue.
Same vice versa. But
I feel like that is what you would think, even I would assume that, but I've been single for 6 years since my baby father, and I've noticed like dipping my toe in the dating waters lately, and as soon as I get a strong like masculine energy come in, I wonder, is he showing me what I want to see? Is he enticing me to step into my feminine and let my guard down? There's
got to consider all the trauma,
resistance like for me to do that, because it is trauma. But I think they're more like, they'll think, why don't you let me love you? And it's like, it's not that I don't want to be loved, I don't want to be hurt, I can't take that risk. And it feels like a massive risk, but someone's presenting themselves as everything I've been looking for, I just think, no,
you can't trust it straight away.
True. But it's easier for, I think, the person who might be offering you to step into your feminine, they don't understand why you're resistant to take that leap. And from what I've seen, there's not necessarily like patience with that. It will take me time to step into my feminine, and I need to see it. You can't say it. I need you to show it. That trust needs to be like proven. Do you know what I mean? It's the trust element. I can't trust someone that I've just met, as much as they might propose this masculine energy and do everything I need, take care of what needs to be taken care of. I'm still like guarding myself because I've got my little boy to think about, and if I'm anyway tampered with and my emotional, like I'm on some kind of roller coaster, I can't love my son the same. Just seems to be a lot more at stake. But I think it's a lot harder to relax into that feminine, even when someone's presenting with what you would think to be the masculine energy you're looking for. So I don't know how.
I think also masculine being able to be in touch with the feminine is an important part.
That
like recognizing it, honoring it, is part and parcel of being able to know how to hold a woman in her feminine and also in her masculine.
Right.
Like this, it's so fluid, and like even recognizing that some days your masculine may be more dominant, your feminine may be more dominant, and all of the rest of the spectrum of these energies, and just I think it always circles back to self-awareness and being able to communicate about it openly.
100%. And I think a lot of it is to do with, cycles. So they say, obviously, a woman's cycle is generally dictated by menstrual or, lunar cycles for some people. But for guys, they say guys go through that sort of monthly cycle in terms of where you're at emotionally and what you need from what might be a partner, for example. Can you say from your perspective, are you aware of a cycle that you go through emotionally?
No, I'm not aware on a information knowledge level, but I can feel things going on within me that I don't necessarily understand, or that I've not managed to understand yet, but it could be along that. I haven't got any knowledge or information on men's cycles, but
okay, it's just interesting.
I'm sure if I looked into it, that something would resonate with me, because I can feel something anyway. Even not just on like a kind of spiritual level, even on a kind of like health, bodily function level, I can feel when I'm
like when your brain's operating.
Yes, I can feel when I'm when I'm in like optimal condition, and when I'm not, and I don't know why. Like I've stuck to the same diets, the same sleep, the same, and so I think that's something I need to learn about.
Fixed things are still the same.
Sorry, say that again.
So all the other fixed things are the same. Your diet, your sleep, undisturbed, but you won't understand why you're feeling a change in your dynamic. Okay. Do you journal about those kind of things, or?
Inconsistently.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, for me, it's been about tracking my emotions, and actually, because you can think about something. I know, okay, when it's coming up to my period, I'm going to feel like I don't want anybody near me for 48 hours before. I can start to feel that prickly hedgehog energy coming out. And it's like, okay, that's easy, because then you obviously have your period. So that makes sense. But I think to be able to now track my emotions and learn how that cycle works, for me, has been really beneficial, because I have to design my social life around it. I have to know that, okay, I'm not going to try and date on those 2 days because I'm just not going to be good company. I've tried it. You know what I mean? It's all new to me. It's new, but literally I went on a date in that window. The guy was like, dude, something's changed. Like the energies are off. Is everything okay? I was like, listen, I was coming on. I didn't know. And I just had to be real with it, because it's like, I'm a woman. You're trying to deal with women. Yes. And we have a cycle. And it doesn't mean we don't care about you. It's just that there's a window that it's more...
This is what we should be being
time
taught
to spend
in school,
time together.
like, as part of the curriculum. Like, we get like taught about, what happens when you have your period. Like, your period comes, you can use a tampon, you can use a pad, but we're not taught about like all these like hormonal changes. Like, and that, like, anyone, I don't even think it's specifically for people who, everyone deals with women in their life. We all came from women, It's so important for everyone to be educated on the stages of these cycles, just to know that, and to know how to honour women better. But especially in this day and age, when you're having like sexual relations with women, and a lot of men, they're not wanting to wear condoms, but they don't want to know about a women's pregnancy, menstrual cycle, and like those like quote unquote safe windows, and like the huge variation, even when you are following kind of like that natural cycle method. And this is how I conceive, because I'd just got my coil taken out a couple of months before. And I felt like, I'd been doing my reading, my research, and I was going on like that standard, like, what is it, like 26 to 35 day standard cycle, ovulation around the middle of that. I conceived on the 28th day of my cycle, which, like, from what the reading, that's impossible. Yeah. Because your cycle's meant to be like 28 days. So we even when you go down that route and you're looking at these natural, like the typical cycle, there is so much variation. Like, I only recently learned that your body, if you're stressed, your body can try to ovulate multiple times before it actually ovulates. And I think that's what was going on with me, because it was a really stressful month dealing with what I was dealing with my partner at the time. So I think that's how it happened. But like, why don't we know this? Like, why are we not taught this? And why is this information so hard to find?
There's too much power in that information.
Yeah.
Enabling us with this kind of information changes the world for the better and gives power to the people. They don't want that. That's not what they want. They want us to be dependent. I feel like in this country, like, the government are strongly governing. Things are controlled here.
Yeah,
the amount of mail I get in this country, like post, letters, I don't get it. I swear. Not one piece of mail. In 2 years when I lived in Dubai, there was not one piece of letter come through my door. Nobody wants your address. What? I've got your email, like, if I need to email you. But here, yeah, I have a phobia of mail now, because I've come back and I've seen.
I'm like, who wants my money now?
Yeah, I don't even know. It's all rubbish. I think I've got this box of paperwork. Paper bin was going out yesterday, so I started shredding it, and I thought, why have I got 10 of the same letter? It's just a joke.
In a climate crisis too.
I do feel like that's part of their reminder. We're here.
Control freaks, yeah.
We are on you. We're looking at you.
Yeah.
We're in control, kind of thing.
According to me.
Right. And the way that I perceive language, I look at the language use as well. They use imperative language. So you must, mandatory this and commanding language. And I find that, like, challenging, because when I set up Mama Moss, that's a whole different thing. Still a government entity. They're going to send me paperwork requesting, this and that. But some of the correspondence, it's like as though they're talking to me as an equal now at this point. But when it's something to do with, I don't know, my driving license, they revoked my driving license because they wanted to check, my medical conditions, I was safe to drive. And it was like, they sent me a letter like, you must not drive. And I'm just like, right, so whole life's gone that way, just like that. They've been doing that now for nearly 2 years. So I think it's just their way of saying, remember who's the boss. And you're like, I'm living an adult, my life's getting here. Take me off road and that shit's fucked up. Do you know what I mean? So it really did take a toll on me, but I've navigated around it. I've learned to be on public transport, get myself from A to B. I'm a tram, but it's been a bit traumatic, I'm not going to lie. Because I just think when you've got strong views, your mental health can be a target.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something you've experienced as well, or if that's just the way I perceive my mental health being a result of an ableist society that doesn't hold the same views that I do. And that causes me to have distress and affects my mental health. But I wouldn't say I necessarily have disorders because of that.
Right.
I would say the world isn't designed for thinkers like me, which causes me distress. And obviously everything that's going on in the world right now causes me distress, but there's not a lot I can do about it besides talk about it, and that just feels like I'm not doing anything still.
Well, I think it ties in with, like, how you just described the system as well. Like, none of it's for our benefit. So it's I think it's all, like, society at large is detrimental to just our well-being. And like, I do respect the whole concept of mental health, but I think it's just another aspect of health. So your hormonal health's just as important as your mental health. Do you get what I'm saying? All the different aspects of health, they
tie in.
Yeah, they tie in with each other. So I just kind of look at it all as one. I know, like, there's a big mental health awareness going on at the moment, but I just think it's health, and society doesn't encourage us to focus on our health. It's all about control and
convenience
and programming and their agendas and whatnot. So I think if you don't almost rebel against that, then the inevitable is going to happen to you. There's going to be some type of wear and tear on your mind, body, or soul, because you're out there being
controlled.
Exactly.
I used to be so oblivious to all of it, though. I was so ignorant. I was just happy. I've been private. I went to private school. I'd had a bit of, exposure to street life, really. I was raised in Longsight, but it didn't really hold me back for a long time. I was kicked out when I was 17. I went straight into real estate, had a really nice sort of comfortable career. So financially, I was set from early, and that kind of made me feel I'm good. I can go to the gym, my mental health's good, my body's feeling good. All of those factors of health were being met. But I think then when I was exposed to information about the more sinister side of the world and actually what was going on behind closed doors, but when I met a partner that was older than me, I was like, no, surely the world's not like that. It doesn't affect me. Just because I'm black, it does not mean I cannot. Because anywhere I was, in school, in work, on paper, I was excelling. And I would be like, well, surely no, because look, I'm doing better. I'm a top performer. But deep down, I think I've deeped it with myself. And actually, I never felt like I fitted in. I was actually masking the whole time to be able to provide myself with that lifestyle. So I felt there was a compromise I was doing for a long time without really realising, until I was faced with information that I had to consider. Initially, I rejected it. I was like, no, I am immune to that and it's not affecting me. But over time, I'm like, no, it's systemic. It's affecting everybody. And the people who think that they're not affected, even when they talk about white supremacy, I think that means white people think they're getting a lie, but they're not. They're part of the lie. Because that lie is about black inferiority, and it doesn't exist unless we believe it. So what do you think the difference is between, they say ignorance is bliss. What do you think the difference is between being unaware and being aware of these things? Which one do you... Because there's a negative aspect to becoming aware of these things as well. It's almost, it feels like almost an impossible mountain to climb. Almost. Overwhelming. So how do you see it, the awareness and the knowledge versus the ignorance and the unawareness? I feel like, for me, learning and information is, I naturally crave that. I'm a naturally curious person, and I think that does me well, because being exposed to certain things and then being aware of things, I can see things that matter. If I were to continue to live in that ignorance is bliss, I wouldn't acknowledge that the colour of my son's skin matters. It changes his experience in society. I have to be more hypervigilant with him. I have to be careful how he's spoken to, how he's received. I have to make sure that he's protected and that he's safe. And I think having that information helps me to be, I guess, more vigilant as a mother, but also more vigilant with my own energy, because I think just being a black woman in society, we are somewhat fetishized, if that makes sense. Sexualized, almost objectified. And there's history of where black women have been put on show in museums. Their bodies have been kept, and people have had to pull them out of those museums because they have this shape. That goes to show you the kind of how we got here. And I think understanding that those things have happened and that affects how society views me allows me to change how I will present myself, because I used to be out here people pleasing and thinking that I had to open my legs to be accepted or to be valued within a relationship. Don't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. I have to hold on to my sacred energy in order to negotiate what is also what I need out of the situation. So it's really enabled me just to, I guess, develop new boundaries and apply, I guess, more moral law into my parenthood journey. So I would prefer to be aware because I'm a parent, but I think as a sort of single person living in the world, I did enjoy the time where I was just living without thinking too much because it was quite peaceful, and I had less like, I've got to do this work needs doing. How do we do it? But now it's another thing where it's like, okay, we have to rebuild this community. There's a lot of people that think, can't be asked, I'm all right. I'm good. I'm set. My business is going good. I'm all right. But now I see that almost as like a seller energy. because we have to do the collective work, and anyone who turns their back on that is, for me, that's a big problem, and I was one of those people for a long time.
Understand.
What about you, Kayya? Anything to add on that?
I think it's a difficult one. Well, it's not a difficult one to answer. I think I'm glad that I am aware now, but it does come with this like hypervigilance and like you can't unsee.
This is it.
Way back when I was unaware, like there's a reason why it's called blissful ignorance, because it was blissful, but then at the same time it wasn't, because like the connections that I was making in the place where I grew up, it was a predominantly white area. I grew up completely disconnected from, my African Caribbean heritage, in actually a very racist area, and like a lot of my friends were racist, but I don't know if I can call it racist, because they were just young and ignorant.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
But they'd make jokes, like race-related jokes, and I would laugh along with them, like overtly racist jokes, and I would laugh along with them, and I didn't feel affected by it, so I never related people's behaviour to the colour of my skin until probably like my late teens, when I reconnected with my dad and he put me in touch with some of his family overseas. And that was the first time I'd ever like experienced being around like black people. And then it got to, I came to Manchester, and that again was my first experience being like around a black community. And I definitely found I'd romanticized that a lot. Like we're all here, we're all having these same conversations about, coming together and building community and solidarity and all of that. But then when it actually came to the embodying that and, dealing with the more challenging aspects of that, like conflict resolution and, like working together to create something and navigating each other's like nervous systems and viewpoints, and that being met with such kind of aggression. And then there was a whole murder of George Floyd, and it was all this stuff was just kind of like in your face.
Yeah.
Like I never even given any thought to the concept of systemic racism. Like, for me, it felt like everything just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. So it hit the rest of the world.
Yeah,
at the
I still
same
feel
time.
like I'm processing it, to be honest. And then, it's been of mixed heritage. I deal with a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, I think I moved a bit too far away from the microphone.
No, you're good.
Am I right?
Yeah, you look good.
Yeah, I deal with a lot of like imposter syndrome anywhere I go, and whatever I try and do, because I feel like I'm so late knowing about any of this stuff and being raised completely disconnected from half of my roots, and the roots that I was connected to had no interest in me. Like, didn't even learn my name, So, yeah, well, I'm glad that I know, and I can then, and there's also the question of like, at what age do I pass on this knowledge to my child? Like, I know right now it's she's too young, but I still observe certain stuff, like when we're in the playground, and I hate that it's a thought process that I have to go through. I'm like, is that child treating her that way because she looks different to her, and like not knowing how to navigate certain dynamics, and actively looking to be in spaces where she's not the darkest skinned child in the room, and just having to think about that all the time. It's really exhausting, and it's a constant like learning process. So
Gives
yeah,
you anxiety, doesn't it? Like, I feel like I'm a lot more
always choose
anxious.
awareness, because my connections when I was younger, when I was unaware, from this frame of mind, make no sense. We had nothing in common. It was just like, there's also like my attachment stuff at play. Like, I was just like, whoever would have me, I would like keep me company,
And you don't want your kids to be like that. You want them to lead and feel strong. Exactly.
Connections, which I didn't even. I'm still learning how to do that now. So I could kind of go on about that, but I know,
Honestly, guys, I mean, even if I feel like today we've opened up a conversation which really for me goes down another route, because parenthood is just so complex, isn't it? And I feel like you learn so much about yourself, but also what are you passing into the next generation, and what are we putting in there, like, consciously? How are we changing the vibration of the mind of the next generation? And I feel like we're all contributing something amazing to that. So I think we are at time, kind of thing. So just kind of final offerings, really. I just wanted to say thank you. I feel like it's taught me a lot, and I think you've been very open and honest about, there's not a lot of men that can sit there and be like, okay, this is where I've gone like wrong or could have done differently, and I'm willing to learn from that. So totally.
Well, that was the last little thing I was going to say on this topic, that I feel as part of my masculine contribution to the concept of black people and oppression. I think I have to throw in my accountability. Like, there has to be accountability on black people's part, because we've almost been manipulated into looking outwardly and becoming almost obsessed with victimhood, and there's a lot more details. What I found when I was, like, as you said, romanticizing it all, that came from a lack of specific information. So everything that I'd understood was very vague. When I started to get into the information, I realized a lot of this is not how it's presented. There is a lot of, so there's the story about the Maroons they was never enslaved. The British had to offer them a treaty to just, we'll be at peace with you. You have your own land. You don't have to live under our laws. And these were guerrilla warriors from Ghana that had been, that the colonizers had bought them and took the risk, as these are some of the most productive slaves, like from the Ashanti tribe in Ghana, but known that these are also the most militant tribe. And these slaves, they cost more. It's a big risk. You'll get the most production out of them, but they're also dangerous. And they bought some of the most competent warriors in Ghana, and as soon as they got to Jamaica, they just escaped into the hills, and now these are competent warriors, and no army in Europe could bring them down. So there was no victimhood in their story. And we don't hear enough versions of these stories, because we wasn't just victims. And as a man, it will be like, when you was in school, as a man, you was never proud of how much someone victimized you. You didn't go around saying, nah, I got beat up more than him. Nah, they did this to me. Nah, they victimized me more. They disrespected me more than you. You'd never do that. Like, as a man, you'd be saying, if anything, keep that little information quiet. I lost that fight, or he badded me up. But we've adopted the mindset of like, we got the worst, the Holocaust. Nah, they done worse to us. And it's that, I think we need to rid ourselves of that in order to really heal and stand strong.
I agree.
And then we have to take accountability for the family structure. I don't know if you've heard of the Willie lynching theory, but that was a theory that was used to the slaves to turn the men into women and the women into men.
And take the men out of the picture.
And take the men out of the picture. So they're saying that the original black African woman's state was dependency on her man and her family, and she was comfortable with it. When they got the strongest man and put him in front of a crowd of people and killed him in front of everyone in the most brutal way, and then whipped the rest of the males into submission, it broke the image of her, the male that she depended on. It psychologically told her that you cannot rely on him no more, because I can do this to him. So you're going to rely on me, which takes us to what you're saying, the way they taught you in the letters and whatnot. Like, this started a long time ago. So now she's in her dependency state's been killed. Now she's independent. She refuses to rely on a man. Now that sounds like today's black woman, respectably.
Because we're scared.
Literally, but it's in our DNA though, like, historically. But I think we've got to take ownership of it to deal with it. There's no way to blame it, because expecting them to deal with it is almost implying they're on our side. And
that's what I'm saying about the sellout energy. We can't sell it out. We have to be invested in a collective. And I'd love to go into it more when we speak. I mean, I want to get back. I feel like we need to have another conversation, 100%.
I got so many things to bounce off.
I feel like the black man is... We all know that the black man is the most likely to go into another race as he progresses in his career, in his life, in his conscious. But I feel like that's why the black woman may have been left behind in society, in a way where she's like, right, I have to fend for myself because the world doesn't see me, doesn't hear me, can't feel me, don't want to feel me. Because black men have been put on a pedestal in media, whether it's sports, acting, for a longer time. Before we got to darker skinned women with lighter skinned men, for example, as that's a thing, that's a visual. It was always dark men with lighter women.
Yeah. Definitely.
And even just seeing that, I think it shaped how we behave and how we love each other. And I think black love is something that I feel so passionately about and would like to talk about more, definitely, because we're not giving that sellout energy anymore. We are pro black love, and I want to, like I said, I want to shout about it. So shout out to you for the work that you're doing in a black love. I honestly really rate that, respect it, because it's not easy to survive as a black unit. And anyone that's doing it, hats off, respect the whole time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so thank you, Kayya. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for your contributions. And like you both said, if you're willing to come back and do a part 2 with me.
We need a part 2 because it feels like we've just
scratched the tip. We're going to call this episode the tip of the iceberg. Because there's so much more to say. But I think once we listen back and like dissect what we've talked about today, I think we'll be able to come back with more, because I know your brain's buzzing. Yeah, get on your phone, get in your notes, make sure you lock it in, because we're going to be back for part 2.
Anytime you're ready, I'm waiting for the invitation.
Yes.
But yeah, man, I like everything you're doing. Keep it up. It's definitely the real deal.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. It's been NOSIS. I'm Neenagh Simone. Today I was joined by Wrigz and Kayya. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.